Hi everybody, my name is Renato, I'm 28 years old, and as you can hear by my accent, I'm Brazilian. But I'm currently living in the Netherlands. There's already 1 year. So, in this video, I want to talk about something I like to do a lot, and that is to learn foreign languages. Um, Learning a foreign language can be really hard for people who don't stutter. So, for people who stutter, it can be even more challenging because many people who stutter has bad experiences when it comes to speech, to language, and usually many people has no traumatizing experiences in language classes or whether it's in your mother tongue, whether it's in a foreign language class. Myself, I had some bad experiences as well in English classes, in Chinese classes as well. But still, somehow I managed to develop a passion for language. I just find it fascinating how different cultures can encode knowledge in so many different ways, but still there's some common patterns, and I don't know, I really like this diversity, this grammar, different grammars, strategies, different phonologies, and I must say that I also really enjoy listening to people stuttering in different languages. Let's say in Japanese, for example, I find it really interesting how people stutter in Japanese or in Chinese. I really like it very much. And I remember, I even thought that people only studied in Portuguese. It's very stupid, but I believe in it. And then when I learned that, wow, people also stutter in English, for me it was fascinating to see how people stutter in English, and yeah, and how sometimes how you how it sounds. For example, in English you have this r sound, ra. It's called retroflex r. In Portuguese, in Brazilian Portuguese, in my accent, we also have this sound, but we don't have it in a. They don't have words that begin by this sound. Let's say reaction. We do have like door means porta. I can say porta, but I cannot begin a word by r in this with this r. And in English you can. So you can stutter in a word like raw. So raw. So I really like how these can give a different sound for the language. Uh, yeah, so it's challenging for everybody, and I think people who stutter have to do a double struggle because they not only have to struggle with the with the normal difficulties involved in language learning, but also with the speech production, and it can be very anxiety generating. And yeah, so I've read somewhere that usually there's some writing, some indication that bilingual children has a higher chance of developing stuttering. I don't know how reliable is this information. I read this here and there in scientific articles, but I don't know how well supported is this theory today. And maybe it's something related to language awareness because sometimes it seems that the people who stutter are too aware of their speech production. So maybe they can develop of these paying too much attention, and it seems that probably children who are bilingual maybe are more exposed to this, or maybe social pressure because maybe they have a pressure to speak the parents' language if they are in, for example, immigrant community. So I don't know. Don't take it to know as a truth because I really have to read more and see how reliable is information. But it seems to be true. Um, yeah, and also there's some people who thinks, oh, when I speak in English I don't stutter, or when I speak that language I don't stutter. Usually I only heard this from people who are not completely fluent in the language, because in my experience, in the beginning you may not stutter because it's still kind of foreigner for you. But the more you progress in the language, the more you're gonna stutter because then you are just being into the language, and then your expression are going into it, and then you get used to the sounds, and then your patterns start to appear. So I think I already heard people asking, for example, in stuttering groups, "Oh, if I learn a foreign language, will I stop to stutter? Will I stop stuttering?" No, I don't think so, except if it is sign language, which I also speak. I have a little. I try to make a little blog in sign language. Um, I even defended my thesis in sign language. I did it in Portuguese and in sign language because I worked with deaf people. and as a sign of respect, I defend it also in sign language, so it would be accessible. And it was in Brazilian sign language. Oh, something is happening. There's some sound. Um, yeah. So we're not going to study in sign language, and yeah. So maybe if you want to have an experience on how fluent, how it looks, how it feels like being fluent, maybe you have to go for a sign language, which for me is one of the most interesting languages out there. I really like one of the downsides of me moving abroad is that I don't have here Brazilians, deaf Brazilians to use sign language, and I'm not contacting too much my deaf friends from Brazil, so my sign language is declining. I did open a little blog to keep going, but still. But yeah, I'm going away from the topic. Let me go back for the topic about about it. Uh, I'm talking about sign language. I also read that maybe there's some indication that there may be some deaf people who stutter, and that is very interesting. It seems not to be proved, but it seems that there's some report. I'm not sure about the how um, reliable is this information. I already heard once one girl saying that she met one deaf guy that seemed to stutter in sign language. And you may ask, well, how you stutter in sign language is about the rhythm, right? Stuttering is like a different rhythm. You can use the word disruption, but I prefer the word, I don't know, a changing the rhythm or something like this. And it seems that in sign language, the when you like the position of the signs or the rhythm of the signs may be different from the norm, but still, let's take this carefully because I couldn't find reliable information about the existence of of stutterers of deaf stutterers, and still this has very interesting implications for linguistics, for example. Uh, yes, so something that I also said, I think that's important also to keep in mind, is that different language communities may have different, um, different values, different pressures. So I once read that stutterers in Spanish with Spanish background in the United States. I read once that they feel more they stutter more in Spanish because the Spanish environment is more demanding, is more oppressive in the way they should speak, and I believe this may be true. Uh, I believe different societies or different communities they may have different views, acceptance on stuttering, and this may deeply affect how you the language production. So, uh, and this is associated with stuttering, right? Like you feel more pressure, you feel more, I have to speak, or and then you see. So I think this is really important. For example, here in the Netherlands, I think it's quite open. Like there is a famous singer here, Miss Montreal. You can look her up or like look about her on YouTube. You're gonna see that she's famous here and she stutters openly. And I have the impression that the Dutch society is pretty open about it. Like I already talked with friends and they told me, but why it's funny? Like I cannot understand why someone should be bullied for stuttering. And in Brazil, this can be very common sometimes, even though now there's more awareness. But I kind of can understand. Or for example, in China, I lived in China for 2 years, and I had to took Chinese classes, and people would make videos of me when it was my turn of speaking. They were all foreigners, especially Cambodia, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, but they would take videos of me and talk between themselves in their own languages, and I knew they were no, they were mocking, they were having fun, and yeah, this was highly unrespectful and really made me ask myself if I really needed to be through that. But I was receiving a good scholarship and I was abroad and I would never be able to do this by myself. So I said yes. I'd better be okay with my stuttering, and then I thought, is their problem is not mine if they're having fun of this because it's just the way I am. So nobody should be ashamed by the way he is. And then also, of course, you're in a foreign country, and then you feel a lot of pressure, and then stuttering can be very deeply related to social, to your emotional life. So I was stuttering sometimes a lot, and they really had fun from it. And also the Chinese society itself. I don't want to talk bad, and but I think I many times people laugh at my face when I was in a stutter, like when I had a blockage. Of course, I'm a white person, so um, no, there are many stereotypes involved that white people cannot speak Chinese, or I don't know if my accent sounded funny, but this feels makes you feel uncomfortable, and yeah, I had really bad moments where I had a blockage, or uh, and then people just laugh it, or you know that can be really bad. I'm not saying Chinese society in general, but I've met much more individuals that would behave like that than what I found in the Netherlands. Even though in the Netherlands I found other kinds of problems. For example, sometimes people assume in a blockage because I've stuttered there. Okay, let's go for English because maybe you're not good at Dutch. But also I'm aware that they do this with many people. It's quite usual for Dutch people when they detect an accent, they switch for English to be more polite, to make the communication easier. So, yeah. So, if we are in a bilingual society, I suppose uh, there may be other challenges. And then, if you are trying to learn a language and the person has, let's say, you want to learn Dutch, but both speak English. So, when you stutter, you have to maybe struggle more to keep the language we're learning and to say to the person, okay, it's okay, I just stutter, we just keep going. And yeah. So basically, uh, for the first for a first video, I think that's the main thoughts. Um, that may be related to stuttering and language learning that is more difficult for stuttering, and I think, but even though I think it's important for people who stutter to study foreign languages because it can give you a different perspective on your own speech. Because usually, when you only speak one language, you are kind of so familiar with that sound system, with that grammar system, and then when you study foreign language, you have another perspective, and even on your speech, on how your mouth moves. If you like phonetics, you can study phonetics alphabet, and then you can have a better glimpse, on on this on speech production, like the articulation of the sounds. So I think that we can only gain from it, and I really believe people who stutter should really not let the stuttering no uh, prevent them from doing this. And there are always people who stutter in all cultures, right? Around 1%, sorry, 1%, I think, from the world's population stutter, and it seems, yeah. So I once read that in some regions of West Africa, according to Wikipedia, in some regions of Western Africa, maybe more, but I don't know also how reliable is this information. But still, we always can connect with people who stutter. Maybe even if it's gonna be hard, but hopefully with Google, Facebook, and stuff, we can connect more, and being able to stutter together different languages and learn from each other. So basically, that's my main message for this video. I'm gonna make another one where I'm gonna discuss more detail uh, what I about the challenges for people who stutter in learning foreign languages. So that's my main ideas, and that's it. English. So when you stutter, you have to maybe struggle more to keep the language we're learning, and to say to the person, okay, it's okay, I just stutter, we just keep going. And yeah. So basically, for the first for a first video, I think that's the main thoughts. Um, that may be related to stuttering and language learning that is more difficult for stuttering, and I think, but even though I think it's important for people who stutter to study foreign languages because it can give you a different perspective on your own speech. Because usually, When you only speak one language, you are kind of so familiar with that sound system, with that grammar system, and then when you study a foreign language, you have another perspective, and even on your speech, on how your mouth moves. If you like phonetics, you can study phonetics alphabet, and then you can have a better glimpse, on this on speech production, like the articulation of the sounds. So I think that we can only gain from it, and I really believe people who stutter should really not let the stuttering no uh, prevent them from doing this. And there are always people who stutter in all cultures, right? Around 1%, sorry, 1%, I think, from the world's population stutter, and it seems, yeah. So I once read that in some regions of West Africa, according to Wikipedia, in some regions of Western Africa, maybe more, but I don't know also how reliable is this information. But still, we always can connect with people who stutter. Maybe even if it's gonna be hard, but hopefully with Google, Facebook, and stuff, we can connect more, and being able to stutter together different languages and learn from each other. So basically, that's my main message for this video. I'm gonna make another one where I'm gonna discuss more detail uh, what I th- about the challenges for people who stutter in learning foreign languages. So that's my main ideas, and that's it.